Well, welcome back to the In Good Company podcast, where we believe that the best parts in business happen in good company. And you may notice I got a little bit of a suntan. We've been chopping it up about Cabo, and we will dive into that in just a second. But just came back from an incredible family vacation. If you are listening to this, take the vacation. If you don't have the money, it's probably bad financial advice. Figure it out, because you will come back rested. Your family will be better for it. Carl, cannot wait to dive in with you today.
Yeah, man.
This is going to be an incredible conversation. So without further ado, Carl, welcome.
Awesome. Excited to be here.
Good to have you, man.
Thank you.
Well, dude, tell us a little bit about your story for those that don't know you, your family, kind of what you guys do for work. Give us a rundown, man. Where'd you grow up?
Yeah.
Like, what's the deal?
I am from the Pacific Northwest. Grew up right outside Seattle. Grew up outside on a lake, run in the woods. I ran in college, ran at University of Washington. Wanted to be a professional runner most of my life, so that was like a big pursuing of careers for me for a long time. And I got hurt and struggled with injuries, and it led me to chiropractic school in Atlanta, Georgia. And while in school, I met my wife, Dr. Chelsea. So she's from Rochester. We met in Atlanta. She comes from a chiropractic background, so her grandmother was one of the first chiropractors in the 40s and 50s for her family. And so she knew she wanted to be a chiropractor early on, and it was a later one for me. But yeah, we met there, and eventually we're friends, started dating, and then we got married and moved out to Seattle. Practiced in Seattle for 10 years. And then right before COVID, moved out to Rochester to help out some family, and just kind of change the scenery. Seattle kind of got a little messy for a while. So so we run a pediatric and prenatal practice here in Rochester. 90% of our practice is moms and kids, and the rest is dads and grandparents and great-grandparents. And yeah.
It's awesome, man. Now, do you always call your wife doctor, like when you guys are
No,
home?
I don't know why I did that. I don't I go by whatever you call me.
No, I just thought it'd be a fascinating part of the journey. If like, doctor, can I get some dinner?
If I'm in trouble, maybe. But no, I don't usually use doctor.
You make the kids call her doctor.
Yes.
That's just incredible.
Only if someone's misbehaving or talking down on us, I'll use the word doctor. But otherwise, I call her Chelsea or ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
Good morning, ma'am. Yeah. No, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So that's quite the jump then, to come from, Seattle certainly has maybe a little bit more of the bells and whistles of a major city. What has it kind of been like to transition into? Certainly Rochester is a beautiful place for families, homes, all those kind of things. But for someone listening that maybe has made a transition like that, or they're considering making a jump like that, what was that journey like for you guys to kind of just really uproot and replant yourself into a brand new community?
When we practiced in Seattle, we graduated and opened our first practice in 2013. And so we were there for 6 years. And in that time, we opened one practice, and then we opened up a second practice in a birthing center, led to another practice. And so we were growing, and in Seattle, we were always trying to keep getting bigger and better and growing, right? Part of that is because the cost of living is really tough.
Oh, for sure.
But, we lived in the city. We can walk to the grocery stores. We can walk down the street and have dinner with my sister and her family. And, it was amazing. And I still love Seattle, the cultural diversity.
Oh, it's incredible.
I could drive an hour and a half and go surfing, or 30 minutes to go skiing in the mountains, and there's desert, and there's just so many options. But when we moved here, we had our daughter, and before we let our dog out in the morning, you had to go check for needles in the backyard. And it's just homelessness. It's just a tough city. And so that led to one of the big change of hearts for Chelsea. And
Dr. Chelsea.
Dr. Chelsea, ma'am. Yes. And so, she came to me one day, I want to move home. And she said she never wanted to move back to Rochester. And so on our wedding day, I was like, hey, you ever want to move back? No questions asked. And then she brought it up, and I was like, dang it.
I did that.
So, but it's been amazing. So we moved here right before COVID. We opened our practice in October of 2019.
What a journey.
Yeah. And that's a whole nother story we can talk about. But I've loved the transition because it's like a smaller city here.
Yep.
I'm still learning and growing. But people say what they think here. Like in Seattle, they call it the Seattle freeze. They say one thing and then do the other. Where if you're a parent and I'm sitting across the table from you and I say, hey, this is what you need, they'll be like, well, no, this is where I'm at, or this is my struggle with that, or these are my questions.
Yeah.
And I love that. I'm kind of a soft heart, so at first I would take it very personal, but I love having conversations. So that's been really big for us. It's made life easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and it's just slower. It's easier going. House prices are better.
Yeah. Oh,
I like the more blue collar approach to life where we can just be real, and this is where we're at. So it's been
yeah.
really good.
Yeah, I think I have a couple friends in like Nashville, Chicago, some of these other, kind of booming places that it does feel like there's a little bit more of the keeping up with the Joneses in places like that.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just me getting older, but I don't subscribe to that anymore. I think when I was younger, I was like, oh man, it'd be so cool to live in a big city and to have all those amenities. But yeah, I do think there's a value in feeling like, and again, you want to be inspired and encouraged by your circle, but you don't want to feel like you're coveting, everything that they have, or everything that they do. How have you guys been able to take, because certainly it's an easy statement that you make when you go, oh yeah, we just, we moved and, we started a new practice. It's like you had a decade of relationships, clients, like all sorts of momentum happening there.
Yeah.
How do you start fresh? Like for someone listening that has this idea, or maybe they have, some schooling in a specific area and they're ready to make this jump, like practically speaking, where do you start? How you found a location and then you're figuring out, like, what does that process look like?
Yeah. Our first practices, we really try to figure out like what is all these successful people doing? How do we mimic that? So we were trying to be a lot like these other chiropractic offices that saw all these people and did all these things. And that really wasn't that's not the right decision for most people, because we're not them. We were chasing things that took a lot of work, a lot of money, a lot of extra debt. And so when we sold our practices, which really helped because we could work for a while and not pay ourselves because we had this income, right?
Yeah.
And so we were like, all right, what do we really want? Like, what's the culture we want? We were Tree of Life in Seattle. We kept our name, Tree of Life, here. That's really important to us, the name. And then what do we really like about our business, and how do we dive into that? And so simplicity and ease were the really big things for us. We didn't want easy, but we want ease, right? Because if you have ease, you can really be like congruent with yourself.
Yeah.
And so when we got here, we're like, all right, what kind of space will allow kids to run and play? Again, we have 100 plus kids on a daily basis in our office. So like, there's lots of kids. So we want space. We want a runway. We want toy areas. And that meant like our design and our eyes, like to make it look like a place where people want to come hang out. So like looking for a space, and then really just going and talking to people, and just, we created a list of like 100 people who were interested in what we did. And we had that list. And then as we finally got our build out going, we hired 2 staff, and then our build out got delayed by like 2 months. We're like, oh, we got to still pay these people. But we were able to train them. We rented out a library room for a month and a half, and it was awesome. Like the 4 of us sat there and we talked about chiropractic. We talked about our vision and our culture and our mission. And we would just call up these lists, like, hey guys, we're going to open on this date. So when we opened, we had a long list of people who were ready. And so that really allowed us to start with a bang. And it's really just creating a list of people who are interested, and then just creating value for them in the whole process.
And where do you get that list? Again, I know you're kind of saying it, but is that like a marketing, like you're paying for a list or something?
No, so we did a couple events, which we don't do a lot of events, like a spring fling event or like a booth. We did a couple of those, which weren't the greatest, but the big thing is like just meeting people at church or through friends groups, or going to the library play group and like meeting moms at the library, like book reading time, right? And just saying, hey, this is what we do, and be like, oh, that sounds awesome. And I'm like, here's our website. We have a VIP new patient special. If you just give us your name, we'll call you when we open. And we just met people, and that just Chelsea did a lot of meet and greets, like taking out midwives.
That's great.
People out for coffee and just say, hey, what do you do? I want to meet the community. We get names that way.
Yeah.
Just really just connecting with our community.
Well, I think that is incredible.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't feel salesy. It doesn't feel like, hey, I'm taking you to coffee and I'm going to toss you this 20% off coupon, and now I'm going to beg you to come back with monthly newsletters and text messages every week, I love that, because it's true service. It's human connection, wanting to say, hey, we're here now. We have, we have this experience, but we really want, if it's a value to you, we want you guys to use it.
And we still do the coffee dates monthly to date. Like, I don't. Usually it's Chelsea or one of our girls. Our girls do it, and they're awesome.
Yeah.
And it's just to connect with, like, a lot of times we don't even talk about our office.
Yeah.
We just get to know them. How can we be a connector for them and provide a service for them? And they usually start asking questions that way.
It's great.
So people refer to you not because of the deal you have, it's because they trust you and like you. And
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Our tagline at Thomas Media Group is building business in good company.
Yeah.
Which is just, we actually want to spend time with the people that we're doing business with. We don't just want to support their businesses. We want to support their lives behind their businesses, right?
Yeah.
That was just a cheap plug. I appreciate you letting me do that.
Gotcha. Plan that out.
Yeah. Thank you. End scene. Thank you for tuning in. So one of the thoughts that I just want to kind of hit on, and I don't mean to call my dad out with this, but I know that chiropractic care, it has this kind of stigma with it, right? Where I know my dad, anytime I've mentioned that I've gone to a chiropractor that my wife has or kiddos or whatever, it's always, you just gotta be careful with that because, once they crack you, you're stuck with them for life kind of deal. Like for someone that's maybe a skeptic that's listening, that's like, okay, like this West Coaster, coming in with his stuff. Like, what do you feel like the advancements have been kind of in the chiropractic space? And what would you say to someone that maybe is a little bit more on the skeptic side?
Yeah, I love that question because that's mostly dads in our office, right? The mom will come in, she's been to all these specialists, little, struggling with school or this or that. And mom's like, all in, but dad's like, I'm not paying for that. There's no science to it. We're going to go to the pediatrician. We're going to do this, right? We'll do that. So I love skeptics. I love conversation. But the biggest thing I always say is come in our office and talk to parents. Like, I don't need to sell anyone on anything. I'm okay with people leaving and come back when it's the right time. But this is what I know is, one, when kiddos come and their nervous system is balanced and functioning and adapting, they're healthier. And moms see that. And dads will see it when they have the kids alone for a weekend. And then they're all in.
Or a couple hours.
Or a couple hours, right?
Yeah.
But, back in the day, chiropractic was, it started off as, the first, official chiropractic adjustment was restored a janitor's hearing. So the first ever really, Americanized chiropractic adjustment. And then with insurance and life, it came neck and back pain. But now it's coming back where I think the world is catching up to the science behind chiropractic. Even from us, we don't do a lot of neck pain, back pain type stuff in our office. And we talk a lot about things like the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is like a part of the nervous system that calms the nervous system down. So like sensory, ADHD, epilepsy, seizures.
Wow.
The nervous system is fight or flight stress state. And if we can calm that down, they can better function, adapt, and focus, right? And now science is catching up because now with kids with epilepsy or kiddos who are in the sympathetic dominance, they're creating ways to stimulate the vagus nerve. And the most natural way to do that is just adjusting the upper cervical spine where the vagus nerve actually comes out of the brainstem. You can create that change. So I think science is catching up to it. But it's weird. I mean, if you think about someone grabbing your neck or adjusting your kiddo, if you watch TikTok, you're like, I'm not letting my kid go in that office, right?
Oh, bro.
But no, these kids, when you see the kids change, I'm okay with it being placebo effect. If they're getting better,
oh sure,
it doesn't matter to me. But we see it on a continuous basis. So I think the world is catching up. I think we're coming to more of a natural approach to health. We're seeing that you can't keep covering up a symptom because it's just this endless road.
Yeah,
I think everyone's coming around to that. I don't know if that answers the question.
No, it's great. I and again, I think that part of the stigma is that what you said. It's people think if I have back pain or if I have neck pain, then I go.
Yeah. And
it sounds like there's deeper things at play with the brain and just overall kids' health and functionality.
And two, to step on, or to address the once you start going, I keep going.
Right.
I think there's importance to that, right? I think depending on what your goal is, if your goal is like, hey, I want to get out of pain, chiropractic is amazing. 2, 3, 4, 5 visits and that neck pain gets better, right? But if you're looking from a more we don't do a lot of that type of care. So if you're looking more of an overall health and adaptability and not getting sick as often, it's like going to the gym. You can't go to the gym for a month, lose 10 pounds, and then be like, I'm good, I'm going to go back to what I was doing. Getting 20 pounds back, right?
Yeah.
So I look at it a little bit like that. Now, our goal is not to adjust them as often as possible. How long could they hold that adjustment? The goal is to spread that over time using, we use a lot of objective findings and scientific ways to measure that. But my goal is how can we spread it out as long as possible while holding that adjustment. Yeah. So there is some frequency involved, but that's because we also sit at a desk all day or we're sitting on our tablets all day.
Of course.
We're not living out in the woods running around, which would be nice.
Yeah, you mentioned this part of your story. I grew up in the summers at Honeyway Lake. My parents had a cottage there. And just, being a kid, man, running around and I had to load the seaweed into the tractor bed and drive it to the back and dump it. And I wasn't a farmer by any stretch, but it's like I was in the creek, I was finding worms to put on the fishing pole, and there is something about that, that is try to get my daughter too, but she's kind of crazy, so she's gonna do it on her own. But I just got to get my boy out there. But so for young families like mine, 5-year-old, 2-year-old, what are some preventative things that you would recommend? Whether it's at home first, or even just coming in, like what are some of those preventative measures that maybe there aren't any signs or anything right now, but just some healthy things that we can do?
I mean, from a chiropractic standpoint, even a normal, natural, healthy birth, science shows 90% of newborns are born with some kind of mispositioned vertebra in their spine, right? And that affects the brainstem, which can affect latch, sleep, pooping. So eat, sleep, and poop are the big things with kiddos. If they're struggling as a newborn, they're having troubles with eating, sleeping, or pooping, those are signs that their body's in the sympathetic dominant state.
Got it.
And so that's usually when moms come in. So for us, our big thing is we do scans. We do a thermal, a muscle tone, and HRV on everyone every 12 visits, so we can have objective findings of what's going on and how do we address it.
Great.
So that's the first one from chiropractic. I would say is get checked, because some kiddos are doing amazing and their nervous system's balanced, and that might look different than a kiddo who's just like wound up all the time, right? And so for us, we want to figure out, all right, get them checked. What's their nervous system look like? And then we can really assess them. We have most of our patients come in as full families, and some kiddos need a lot more, and some are doing amazing. So it really depends. So I would say get scans, get checked, and then go from there. At home, I mean, I think the kids just need to get outside and move. That's the biggest one. One, look at eating quality food, right? And healthy food, and then also having balance. Where if you go to a birthday party, eat the cake, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like, watch that. Having a good bedtime routine. A lot of times, kiddos with behavioral issues at school or struggles with health have horrible bedtime routine. So getting a good routine for that. But like, I think getting outside and moving and just being kids. Is the biggest thing. It's
great.
Yeah. And an example as a parent, like our kids are watching us. Like we were talking about kind of our faith journey, but like whether it's your faith or your physical fitness, like our kids are watching. They're not going to listen, they're going to watch. And so I think being an example of health is really important for our kids.
It's massive, man.
Yeah,
and it's scary, because then it's like, man, this is up, not that it's solely up to you. Obviously we're men of faith. Like there's a bigger picture at play, but I think there's no question, man, that and especially having just been on vacation for a week in a small hotel room and just seeing them up close and personal, there's very much a lot there. I have a very unique question for my own family. So if you guys don't need this, I'm just going to use this as some free counseling here. What about things like anxiety, or my son is getting to a place where he's actually scared to go poop on the big boy potty right now. He used to, and now there's like this pretty deep rooted anxiety. We were on the airplane and he's like, I cannot go in there. Like tears, like a true sense of overwhelm. I was a little bit like that as a kid. So sorry, buddy. We never did chiropractic care or any of those things, but that kind of thing, is that, because again, you can go to a pediatrician and they, whatever kind of the hotness of the day is, they'll
Miralax,
say,
whatever.
Whatever. Yeah. So
grape juice.
Like, is that, again, he'll go to the bathroom in a diaper or whatever it is, but it's like, there's just kind of this thing that needs to be unlocked. Is that in the chiropractic world? Or
we see a lot of kiddos who come in with that issue, where they have the fear of using the toilet, and then you put a diaper on and all of a sudden they go, right? Part of it is they've had struggles with painful pooping, whether it's just hard and pellety or like, and sometimes there's hydration, sometimes it is the nervous system. And sometimes it's also they get it in their head of like, it's scary or it hurts. And so creating a positive experience and layering those is really important. Again, I think from a chiropractic standpoint, just calming the nervous system down helps, right? But also is like making a fun experience. Maybe not fun, but but make it an easy experience where they're like, all right, I can go sit, right? Like whether it's just have toilets all around the house. If you're going to go watch the TV, sit on the toilet, right? If you're going to do this, get enough experiences where it's easier for them. Making sure like they are having quality diet and hydrating really, really well is going to allow it to be less uncomfortable as well.
Right.
So that often if they have one bowel movement that's really big or really hard, Sorry, we're getting really kind of granular with poop.
Bro, this is great.
But like if it's painful, they're like, well, I don't want to do that again.
Right.
Right. So if you give them the elements or the part to have as ease of a bowel movement, they're more likely to do it again.
Yeah. I didn't realize we were talking about poop so much. This is awesome.
That's every day in my office.
Yeah, so, it's incredible. One of my favorite parts of our podcast we do is called the fails of the week.
Yeah.
So I think it's very easy for people to see your Instagram page, see your guys' life and go, oh yeah, it must be nice. These guys are crushing it. This is wonderful. But being an entrepreneur, being a business owner is freaking hard.
Yeah.
And I think it's just fun to share. It doesn't have to be from this week, but are there any fail stories that you feel like maybe weren't funny at the time, but it could be worth just sharing for those listening?
Oh man. I listened to some of your old podcasts, so I was planning for this, but then it wasn't in like you kind of gave me a heads up of questions. It wasn't in the question.
Oh, good.
So
good.
I was like, oh, maybe so I gotta ask it. Do you want an entertaining one or do you want one that's more like business serious?
No, entertainment, baby.
Okay. Well, I told a boy this week that I was putting his mom down after they put their dog down last week. That was a big
How
fail.
did that go off?
It went okay. So if you ask the girls in our office, so we have 5 girls working the front and then Chelsea and I, and we have an intern. And I put my foot in the mouth all the time. So they probably have a lot more examples than me. But I was talking to this mom about we have a puppy, but we also have a 15-year-old golden retriever who's getting towards the end. And they put their dog down recently. And so I was asking questions about, how do you know when? And all these things, right? And we're doing that, and then we literally say like I'm dreading putting my dog down, and then her son walks in and is like, hey, what are you doing to my mommy? And I'm like, oh, I'm just about to put her down. And he looks at me, his eyes get big, and he starts crying. And I'm like, oh my God. And he's like, don't put my mommy down. And she is cracking up laughing, thankfully. I'm like, I'm so sorry, buddy. I'm at the table. I got to lower the table. Like I'm trying to
literally put her down.
That was my fail of this week.
I love that.
I think I had a couple others, but yeah, that was one of them.
Yeah, I have a lot of those moments. It's the grand irony is that I now have a podcast where I can just have those moments on the internet. But yeah, I think there is there's a lot of those that I have experienced over many days that I'm sure some people listening are. Yeah, you feel free to type them in the comments.
But if you know, if someone knows your heart, it's usually okay.
Agreed. And I think, again, for someone that's listening that really does want to pursue that dream, I think that there is this tendency where, whether this is in faith or launching a business, where you feel like you have to have everything completely perfect before you jump out. Yeah. You have to have, oh man, I put my foot in my mouth a lot, so I gotta repair this, and I gotta fix this, and I gotta make sure I have this. And what piece of advice would you say to someone that is kind of in that analysis paralysis, where they have this dream, they have this vision, this idea, but they haven't quite made that first step? What encouragement would you have for them?
I think, figuring out why you're doing it first and foremost, and knowing like the reasoning why, and honestly just going and doing it. So one thing I love about running, and I know you'd run a little bit too, is like you get out on one of those runs and like you just feel horrible, and it sucks, and it's windy, it's raining, and the only way to get home is just one step at a time. And then all of a sudden you get home, you're like, man, I just ran 16 miles. That was awesome, right? But it sucked. Business is the same way. Yeah. But if you know what your end goal is, as long as you're taking a step all the time, you're going to get there. Yeah. And so I think the key is to know what you want, know what your passion is, and then just take a step forward. And you're going to figure it out as you go. Like you'll never, I'm one who always like, I have to have the perfect plan. And I won't start until I have it done. I got so many journals with ideas that I've never done anything with. Yeah. So, and my wife was like, just do it. God always provides. Like, we'll be fine. And so I think sometimes you just got to go out and do it and know that like, all right, worst case, you got to take another step and another step, and eventually you get there. So, I mean, I think and you got to have fun doing it. Yeah. Like if you're going to step out on your own or do something that you've been like wrestling with a lot, if you're going to do it, you got to enjoy the process, because every new business, unless you win the lottery, is going to be a grind at times. Yeah. 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 I think too, and I feel like I say this phrase a lot, but I think we are in a world right now that feels like they need permission to do the very thing that God has put them on this planet to do. Yeah. And it's a really dangerous place, because if you think about a traditional 9 to 5,
there will never, like there's a news flash, there will never be a boss that will come and tap you on the shoulder and say, hey man, I want you to go pursue the thing that you want to pursue. We'll pay you the next 6 months. You don't have to come here, and just go pursue your dream.
Yeah.
That will never happen, right? And we know that, but we need to stop. If you're listening to this, please stop waiting for permission to do the thing that God has put you on this planet to do. Because number one, when you step out in that God-ordained thing, the fruit that comes from that is not for you, it's for the others. Mm-hmm. So as you step out, there are people that are actually going to receive and benefit from that faith step. Yeah. And one of the things with your journey, and I'm sure you have some mentors and people ahead of you that I'm curious about, is who have been some of those people that have encouraged you along the way? And this could be within your faith journey, whether it's God and praying and journaling, but also even on a practical level of some people that you guys feel like have really inspired you in your journey. Yeah. How important has that been to have a community of people around you that are spurring you on towards this pursuit as opposed to kind of poking holes in the armor?
Yeah. I have amazing parents. I was just, while you're in Cabo, I was in Arizona with my parents playing golf with my dad. My parents have always been supportive of me. And they've always like pushed me to be bigger and support, like always been there. And so I've always known, like I've had that. I've had great mentors and coaches, but I think what I've learned is that I think having those people, which I've had in my wife and different people, but knowing why we're doing it is more important than who's guiding you on that path. I don't know if that makes sense.
Makes great sense.
But like I could name off hundreds of people who've really led me. Like we get coached right now. We just started re-coaching again with 2 other chiropractors who we've known for a really long time. Just need someone to kind of work with us through some things, right? Or my daughter is one of my biggest like motivators, and she calls me out on things all the time. And so, that's one. But I think that if we're always trying to rely on other people to build us up and encourage us, we're missing the fact that we have someone else leading us, right? And so I think there's a balance of that. I've never been one to get autographs because I have a hard time like looking at these people as like up to them, right? And so I don't know if I could say other than my parents.
I like it, man.
Like I have a hard time. I've never really like, I don't know.
Well, it goes back to what I said about if you're just doing it for the approval of someone else, or if you're just trying to emulate someone. I mean, you said it early on in your journey when you guys came to Rochester. It's like you kind of tried to do it that way, where you're looking at other people and how are they succeeding, but it wasn't until you kind of got down in the dirt, so to speak, and you were able to meet the people.
And I think most people are chasing those other people right now, especially with social media.
Of course.
Like, I want to do this. I'm going to follow all these people on social media who do that. And you're going to look at like their highlight reel of like, all right, they're doing this, this, and this. I need to do that. If I don't have that success, I'm not successful. So I think it's such a dangerous road.
There's never been a time, with the exception of like a bank account, but that's not typically public. There's never been a time where you can actually attribute like popularity or value ever before.
Yeah.
Right? Where now you can look at someone's follower counts or something and say, oh, this person must be very important because they have 100,000 followers or, whatever it is. And I just think it's very dangerous. And I remember speaking at St. John Fisher to a group of entrepreneurs, and I just said, be really wary of shallow mentors, people that you follow on social media, but their whole life you don't actually get to see.
Yeah.
So there's people that are really sharp and they have great words and buzzy little social media posts, but their family's falling apart.
Yeah.
Or there's other aspects that actually you don't really want the life that they have. So don't recreate the business that they have, right?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of chiropractors out there who are like, they're killing it. And all of a sudden one day I'm like, wait, he's not wearing a wedding ring anymore. He doesn't have pictures with his wife anymore. Or like he's unhealthy, like because you don't see,
Yeah,
you don't see their full life.
Of course, man, and you're not judging that.
No, none of us are perfect.
Yeah, no, but you're looking at it as like that's just a product of their journey. Everybody has an individualized journey, and I think back to what I said before about trying to feel like it's all perfect before you start. I got to imagine when you guys launch in 2019, you have this huge vision of where this is going to go, what's this going to be, and then COVID hits.
Yeah.
And so you're like, wait a minute, God, I just moved across the country to start and pursue this dream. And then we are shutting down everything. how does that hit you? Again, we're talking about stepping out on the dream. That's step one.
For sure. Yeah.
But then as you're building the things in place, you're finally getting that momentum. And then here we go. Like the valley, that first valley hits.
Yeah.
What was that like?
We were really blessed during that time, but because we sold our business and started a new one, like, a lot of chiropractic offices could float off of the PPE and all that stuff.
Right.
We didn't have that work history, so we didn't have any crutch underneath us. So Chelsea and I sat down when it first hit, and we're like, what are we gonna do? We're like, one, we're not gonna let go of our girls. We will make sure them and their families are taken care of. Because we didn't know what was gonna happen.
Yeah.
Right? And then we were fine. And like, well, why do we do what we do? Like, why are we here? Because when we first started in practice, our goal was like to see everyone and families, but we realized we want to make a difference in our community, in our world. We have to start younger and younger, because these kiddos are struggling, and by the time they're old, they're not able to be as healthy to make a big difference, right?
Yeah.
They're on multiple medications and different things and that. And so, like, how do we allow them to be as ready to serve when they're older? So that's really like why we got into kids. And so when COVID hit, we're like, all right, these kids are stuck at home. They don't have these resources, especially we see a lot of kiddos with sensory struggles, struggle with autism, different, diagnosis.
Yeah.
How are they going to do in a space where they can't go out anywhere? Or kids who learn to speak who can't see someone's face all of a sudden.
For sure.
Right? And so we need to be a light and stay open and do whatever we can to serve these families. And we got a lot of pushback. We had other chiropractors turning against us.
Sure.
We had them reporting that we're seeing kids with special needs during COVID. We had phone calls saying, hey, we're all closing our offices. You should close yours too. And so I think for us, we're like, no, we're here to love and serve these families. And so we pushed, and we just like, all right, we're going to be available. And so we grew, because moms all of a sudden, or dads are stuck at home with their kids, are like, we got to teach our kids, and my kid's bouncing off the walls right now. Right?
Yeah.
Or my kiddo is having a really hard time with this. And so that, honestly, COVID for us allowed us to really grow and create such a tight community that most of those patients from 2020 are still patients.
Wow.
And so they saw the value of taking care of their health and not just relying on a medication or something else. And so for us, that was huge. And so it maybe was a slower growth pattern than we wanted, but we created huge value, one for our patients, but they create huge value to us of creating this really tight core.
Yeah.
So, we were able to grow through. And the biggest thing, like, even when we sat down with our staff, like, all right, guys, how are you doing? What are your fears? Like,
yeah.
And they're like, oh, I'm afraid of this. I'm like, all right, let's talk through those. Let's talk through what COVID is. Let's talk through what it looks like to work, and like, why do we do what we do? And so they were all on board, and they were amazing. So we just created an amazing team during that time period.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly that was a very confusing time, I think, for everybody. I think,
and there was no right answers.
Of
as
course,
a parent, because you're just searching for like, what can I do?
Yeah, I mean, we had our son January of 2020, and then I get furloughed from my job at the time, and I'm like sitting at home, which was freaking amazing, because his whole first year of life, I was like, we're going on walks every day, and it was like, cool.
Yep.
Let's wipe the groceries down and keep it moving, right? It was just a very interesting time. But for someone listening that has some young kids, they've never done chiropractic care, maybe they are on some medications or their kids are, what's kind of the typical like first visit type of process with you guys, just to give them a little bit of an example of what it could be like?
So it depends on the kiddo. So, a lot of times we'll have moms come in during pregnancy.
Okay.
And chiropractic is hugely beneficial for safe, effective, efficient birth, right? And so a vaginal birth is really important for the microbiome and the head and all these different things. So like, we're trying to create an environment. Things happen where that doesn't always happen. That's safe baby, safe mom is the first important thing. But that's really important, so we can help through that process. And then those newborns, making sure they're latching and pooping and sleeping. That's a big one. But we talk about a kiddo coming in who may be on a medication or maybe just struggling with school. Our big thing is, all right, we want to do an initial intake, like what's going on? What's their history look like? Sometimes we'll do it on the phone or on a video with the mom, so the kiddo doesn't have to come in and sit there or hear us talking about the struggles. And so once we have that, we do a full analysis where we use thermal to measure the nervous system. We do SMG to measure muscle tone. Like, are they really tight, tense? What's that look like? An HRV So are they in the sympathetic dominant state all the time? So we'll do that assessment first. Then we create a whole data point. So that's the first visit. 30 minutes max.
Yeah.
Our office, we have, our girls are amazing. They'll come play with the kiddos. We got snacks and apples. We have a toy area. We have a family room area. So the kids can run and just play. It's like a doctor's office that is not a doctor's office.
Yeah,
so
it's
they
awesome.
can feel comfortable, and we go at their pace. We've had kiddos who it took me 10 visits to actually get them scanned.
Sure.
Because we're going to meet them where they're at. I want them to have a good experience. So then if they do have to go to a medical doctor or somewhere else, they're like, all right, I can be safe here. So that it helps them everywhere else. And so it's really easy. We get an assessment, and then the follow-up visit, Dr. Chelsea go through all their intake, all their scans. And we're like, all right, this is what we see. These are what the scans say. These are your goals. Based off your scans and our history with patients, we think it'll take this frequency to get to this goal.
Cool.
And then once we can address those initial goals, and we're like, all right, what's it look like from a wellness standpoint or a health standpoint? And so then that changes based off kids. But our biggest thing is give information, and then we will support that mom or dad, whatever they're looking for. So there's no push in our office. There's no like pressure. We want parents to be heard. That's the biggest thing right now. When parents are searching for answers, they feel not heard or like they can't ask questions. So that's really our main focus at first. Like, all right, this is a place you can ask questions.
Yeah.
If you disagree, call me out on it. I want to have that conversation. So that's really the first one. It's just, all right, let's get scans. And some people are like, you know what, I'm not ready for this right now, and that's great.
Yeah.
They have all the information. And then, so that's kind of our process.
I don't mean to like pastor Mike this moment, but I'm going to this alliteration that I just thought of when you were doing this. Our experience has been, if parents aren't heard, then they are herded.
Yeah.
Like you kind of get moved in this momentum type of area where it's like you almost, like the walls are closing in and you're being led to a decision that maybe you didn't actually come up with on your own. And I just love to hear that is your stance and how you guys are continuing to evolve and serve people, because like you mentioned earlier, there really is no right or wrong, I think, but to be in a safe environment where you as the adult can actually make a decision is massively important in the political landscape right now, and everybody's opinions about these news stations and this, here's what you need to do. And I just think, if you're listening, if you're a young parent, none of us know what the heck we're doing. Yeah. But you are also ridiculously in charge of the decisions that
you want to look back knowing that you made a decision you felt like was best at the time and not someone else's decision. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Because especially with COVID, that's one thing we learned. People made decisions based off other people's opinions. Yeah. And not their own, one way or the other, no matter where on the spectrum you were. And so, I mean, we have patients, or we have people who are not patients who came for initial visits, did not start care, who refer patients to us. We have people who weren't patients who still come by and say hello. So, like, I think creating that environment, because then one day they may be ready.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just, again, when you roll up your sleeves and say, I'm going to serve this region. Yeah. I think that when you truly serve and see people, it matters. Yeah. And they want to invite other people there, whether they're using you or not, right? Yeah. So listen, as we close, I feel like we could talk forever. Legitimately, so maybe we have to do a part 2 of this, but we do our rapid fire hot seat questions. This is when you got to feel nervous. These are one word responses, like we are just rattling through. I'm gonna lob in a couple that I didn't prep you with, just to really.
I like that.
Yeah. So, what is your favorite way to unwind after a long day?
We have a new house, so I love to just go home and sit and look out at the water.
Love it.
Or read a book with my daughter.
Love it.
So just hang out.
Love it. Dream golf course that you'd want to play
on? Can I say Augusta?
Of course, bro.
I've played some really cool courses. My grandfather was an avid golfer, so he lived in PGA West down in Palm Springs. So I played the stadium course, and I got to play a lot of courses when I was younger. So, but I think Augusta would be cool.
That'd be incredible.
I played some courses in Atlanta that are pretty good, but Augusta would be cool.
I know this is rapid fire hot seat questions, but I have to steal a story really quick. Yeah. My grandfather passed away at like 93. Mm-hmm. Was married to the same woman for 70 years. An absolute hero for me. I was just learning how to golf. I was like 12 years old. He was down in Florida, little par 3 course in the community. It was Sunday at the Masters. Grandpa and my dad were watching Tiger in red, doing his thing. Yeah. And here I come with my little clubs, and I say, "You guys want to go golf?" My dad's like, "Dude, it's Sunday. No, whatever. My grandpa knows what
Did it.
really matters, stands up, comes golf with me. Second hole over the water, little grandson hits a hole in one, 12 years old.
That's amazing.
So I run up, grab the ball, freaking leave grandpa in the dust. I sprint to my dad and I go, I just hit a hole in one. And he's sitting there watching Tiger. He's like, no, you didn't. Like, what are you talking about? Then my grandpa comes in late and he goes, he hit a hole in one. And it was a story that I shared at his funeral because it was like, golf is, we could have a whole nother podcast about this, but it's just, I'm terrible at golf. It's been all downhill since then.
Yeah.
But just the experience, and all ages can play in kind of one game at the same, it's just,
I love it. Yeah.
Magic.
My grandfather played every day forever. He retired early so he can play golf, and he was always like wanted to get a hole in one. My grandmother, who she had 7 hole in ones when she passed away, she started playing, and I think all of them were with the driver. And it would just bother him every time.
And he never got one.
No, I think he got one. Yeah.
Oh, that's tough,
That's
bro.
pretty wild.
7 is insane.
Oh yeah.
I had a buddy dunk one last at Greystone over the water. Yeah, he last year. And then I think a month later, he was down in like Baltimore with his brother. Yeah. Got another one.
That's cool.
I'm like, bro, nobody cares anymore. Yeah. Like you already got the one.
Share the wealth.
Yeah, what are we talking about? All right, here we go. Best part about working with your spouse?
We get to enjoy the good times together, and like when I come home, we get to share the same experience during the day.
Love it.
And we get to share that with our daughter. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your go-to coffee or food spot here in Rochester?
I saw that when I got my blood pressure up.
Oof, sorry.
It was Ox and Stone.
Okay.
So Ox and Stone was my wife and I's favorite restaurant here, and they changed it.
Mm.
One, because we love the food. 2, we had a really cool experience. Can I go a little longer in this one?
Oh, yeah.
We have a thing with my family where my daughter, when we go to restaurants, she colors while we wait, coloring book.
Love it.
And then she writes a thank you letter on the back, and we give it to the waitress.
Love it.
And it's a way to share gratitude, but also keep her busy, right? We were at Ox and Stone the first times. She wrote this letter. She gave it to her waitress. Moved on. Didn't think anything of it. A year later, we had the same waitress. She pulled out that thing. She'd been carrying it for the full year and said how she was having a bad day, and it changed her day. And so from that point on, we'd seen her multiple times. She'd bring us cake, and like it was just a special thing with her and my daughter. And so we had a special spot with Ox and Stone.
Wow.
And I won't go to the Alexander because I'm just bitter. I love the family who has all those restaurants and it's great, but Ox and Stone was our favorite.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I could see why your blood pressure was getting high because you were pretty pissed off.
Yeah, I miss it.
Dude, that's really special. I love that, man. If you weren't running Tree of Life, this would be the last one. What would you be doing?
I would probably want to be a running coach, actually.
Yeah.
It's so ran in college. Before going to chiropractic school, I thought I would want to be a college coach. Got burnt out from running for a while. I recently got into ultras. I'm a 100-miler this year.
Whoa.
And I would love to coach busy business professionals and parents in ultra running to learn how to, one, do hard things, but do it in front of our kids without taking time away from our kids.
Whoa.
And I'd love to have a life coaching, running coaching mix.
Let's do that.
And I'm gonna do that either way.
You definitely are.
But I'm already coaching a couple people. But I'm gonna pursue that more.
Dude, that's
amazing.
But
I want to be a chiropractor until I'm 75, 80. I want to do what I'm doing.
Let's go.
So
you got to do both.
I got to do both.
You got to figure it out.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Well, thank you, bro, for being on. This has been really, really awesome. Thank you for also the sweater.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna match.
I'm gonna rock the sweater. I was gonna rock it on here, but I figured
no, we can't do it.
Figured it'd be too much. Yeah. But and hey, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the In Good Company podcast, where we believe that the best parts in business happen in good company. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to In Good Company. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. For more information or to connect with Mike, visit him online at thomasmediagroup.co or on Instagram at Michael L. Thomas. Thanks again for listening, and remember, the best of business happens in good company. We'll see you next time.